Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm Grace Holland. North Carolina's U.S. Senate race is getting more crowded. Incumbent Republican Thom Tillis announced last month he would not seek re-election, prompting speculation about big names that might enter the field. This week, our NC Capitol team found out who some of those politicians will be. Former Governor Roy Cooper plans to jump in on the Democratic side. On the Republican side, insiders tell us that former state party chairman Michael Whatley will join the race. WRAL state government reporter Paul Spect joins us now to explain this week's development. Paul, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me back.
So let's start with Roy Cooper. We've known for a while now that he was considering a run. You're reporting now that he's made that decision and plans to launch his campaign in the coming days. What are you hearing about that?
Right. So he had confirmed that he was considering a run, but people didn't know if he would jump in. He's 68. The political environment is pretty hostile for anyone that wants to run. You get your name and your family dragged through the mud. People wondered if he would do it. What I'm hearing is that he feels compelled to do what he can for the Democratic Party. He's the only North Carolina Democrat that I'm aware of that has run as many statewide races as he has and has never lost.
Right.
So if you're him and the party comes to you and says, hey, Roy, we need to win 3 seats to take back the Senate, and North Carolina is expected to be the most competitive race, and you've been our guy and you've shown you can win. Can you run for us? We would love to have this particular seat in North Carolina locked down if you're able. He hasn't confirmed this, but my suspicion and understanding is that he said, yes, I'm gonna do this one last thing for the party. Let's see if I can help us out, meaning the party, take one of those 3 seats back. I'll do what I can. And he's shown not only that he can win, but one thing you'll even hear Republican strategists acknowledge is that he is an amazing fundraiser. He's known for being, whether it's in-state or going out of state, places like California and New York, he's able to raise millions of dollars. And frankly, one reason for that is not just because he's won so much and he's from the state, but he's a dying breed, which is Democrats from the South that have won statewide races. Liberals, in and out of state, are more than willing to give money to someone like that so that they can keep someone like him, someone in the limelight that is a Democrat that looks and sounds sort of like Andy Griffith and that can sort of maintain the party's brand in the South. So that's my understanding of why he's jumped in.
Right. And I mean, even it's crazy to think about we're here considering last summer we were talking about, is he going to be a potential VP option? I mean, and he was sort of mentioned for the same reasons people talk about Andy Beshear, that sort of Southern Democrat, old school, like you said, kind of mentality, and then being able to appeal to a wide audience.
That's right. Yeah. Not only being from here and growing up in Eastern North Carolina and sounding like it, but he was also Attorney General. And so one thing that Republicans often run on is being tough on crime. Well, Cooper can get in that lane too by saying hey, I was Attorney General for multiple terms and have a record that I can run on there. So that's another reason he's appealing to the Democratic Party.
Isn't there another Democrat that's already running, though, and how is that going to affect the primary?
Right, and that would be Wiley Nickel. Now, he was a state legislator, and then he ran for Congress and won. He won a district, a triangle area district, that leaned Republican back in 2022. He beat Bo Hines. People may remember that. And so he's shown that he can win close races, at least and toss up slightly red districts. So he has that under his belt, and he's certainly a polished speaker. People know him around here. He's an attorney. But nothing against Wiley Nickel. His pedigree still isn't the same as Roy Cooper. Roy Cooper obviously never lost, has won multiple term statewide races. It'll be interesting to see if he stays in the race. My personal expectation is that he will not, because frankly, if you run against Roy Cooper in this state, that would sort of ruin your political future, at least in the Democratic Party. So it'll be interesting to see where he ends up. He's not someone that the party dislikes by any means. I should say that out there. Wiley Nickel is certainly formidable and has shown he can win, but Roy Cooper is probably the best chance Democrats have at winning this seat.
All right, and that's certainly probably the position that a lot of people within that party feel. But what does Cooper represent for the Republicans, and what do they think of this decision to run?
Right, so they were curious to see if he'd run too. We mentioned that Cooper is the best chance for Democrats to win, according to many people in the party. For Republicans, there's pluses and minuses. Obviously, the minuses are that Cooper has won. He's never lost. The pluses, though, are that because he's been around so long, he has a long record. That means you can pull stuff from his first term as governor, his second term as governor, his time as attorney general. You can go back and maybe find some legal cases that you disagreed with or whatever. There's all sorts of stuff, and you can pull out and use that to. There's lots of mud for you to sling if you think there's that case. Now, I'm not going to be the judge of what counts as dirt, right? That's for the Republican trackers and opposition researchers to do. But we do know that most recently Republicans have criticized Roy Cooper for handling disaster response.
Right.
The state Republicans for years now have said that when Cooper was in his first term, he responded too slowly and too ineffectively to Hurricanes Matthew and Florence. Some of those victims remain out of their homes even still. And then there was Hurricane Helene last year, and they've accused him of being mishandling that. Obviously, the Democrats and Roy Cooper's people would say that's not the case. I'm just telling you what the Republicans are going to say.
Right.
So, yes, Cooper's great for the Democrats, but because of his longevity and how long he's been on the political scene, there are lots of things that Republicans can use against them, they feel.
Okay. Let's take a quick break right there. When we come back, we're going to talk about Michael Whatley and the news on the Republican side of the ballot. Welcome back. I'm Grace Holland here with WRAL state government reporter Paul Spey. Paul, this week we learned about former Governor Roy Cooper entering North Carolina's Senate race. That was somewhat expected because he had confirmed that he was considering a run and, just generally his level of recognition within the state. What about Michael Whatley? We're reporting that he'll jump in the race on the Republican side. Is that something that we expected? How did his name rise to the top?
Right. Well, we can't talk about Michael Whatley without first talking about Laura Trump. So when Thom Tillis dropped out and said that he won't seek re-election, we immediately called all of our Republican sources and said, hey, who's going to be next? And they told us that Laura Trump, who is a Wilmington native, would get first dibs, essentially, because she has been rumored to have interest in seeking elected office, but she currently lives in Florida. We wondered, would this appeal to her? Would she want to come back to her home state? And ultimately, today, Thursday, we learned that she was dropping out, right? We reported that was likely because she has little kids. She has a show on Fox News, and I'm told, I don't know if this is true, don't quote me, but that her studio, if it's not in her house, that is very close to her house. So from a lifestyle standpoint, she would go from having a very comfortable setup there in Florida to having to move back to North Carolina and potentially uproot her family, and that was unlikely to happen. Now, she may seek higher office at some point. She's relatively young and could do that, but she's chosen not to. As we reported weeks ago, that if she did not run, that Michael Whatley would be someone who might be potentially interested. Now, why Michael Whatley? Well, because he has been a Trump ally for years. He was among the first people in North Carolina, among the first Republican strategists, operatives, whatever you want to call them, to even support Trump dating back to 2015 and 2016. That goes a long way in Trump world when you're loyal, right? So fast forward to 2019, when that position for chair came open to run the Republican Party of North Carolina, Whatley's name rose to the top. He won that election. He ran the state party from 2019 until 2024. And then he became co-chair with Laura Trump of the Republican National Committee. Now, that's the biggest organization for the Republicans in the country. But he's been Trump's right-hand man, essentially, especially in North Carolina, which Trump has won each of the three presidential elections. Even 2020, when Biden won the whole thing, Trump still won North Carolina. So that goes a long way in Trump world.
Now, there are a couple of candidates that have already launched campaigns. Who are they, and how did they respond to the news about Whatley?
That's right. There are some people who have run before for other offices. That's Andy Nilsen and Don Brown. Now, they are not widely known names. They're more of grassroots guys. And we reached out to them, and both of them say they will stay in the race even if Trump endorses Whatley, which we expect. Whatley would not jump in this race because he's never run for political office before without Trump's endorsement. So we expect to see that. But Nilsen and Brown both told us, hey, we love and respect the president, but they view Whatley as an establishment guy, and they view themselves as grassroots guys. And so they told us they think Whatley isn't going to do it for the Republican base. They see him as someone akin to Tom Tillis, who, is sort of, in their words, an establishment guy. And the base just doesn't like that word. They don't like establishment guys. They want someone grassroots. So they're going to stay in, and it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. Whatley, when you run a party for long enough, like Whatley had, you will ultimately turn some people off with some of the decisions you make because not everyone agrees with whatever a leader does, right? So Whatley has his detractors here in the state. I don't know what that will mean for the primary, but we still expect Whatley to win. If he gets Trump's endorsement, Trump is the kingmaker. Trump tells people how to vote. We saw in 2022 how it worked out when Trump endorsed Congressman Ted Budd over Pat McCrory in the Senate race.
Right.
And that essentially sealed it. Ted Budd who was a congressman, went on to beat the former governor of North Carolina and win that seat. I would expect the same thing if not in the coming hours, the coming days, for Trump to endorse Whatley and for everyone else to sort of fall in line, with the exception of a couple candidates.
Okay. So if we think it's going to be Cooper against Whatley, what do political analysts think will happen with that potential matchup?
Right. We talked a little bit about Cooper. Let's talk a little bit more about Whatley. His strengths are behind the scene. He is extremely good, according to analysts and strategists, at putting a political apparatus in place. He hired a ton of attorneys that were prepared for each of the past elections to challenge what they would call voter fraud or irregularities, things like that. He's big on election integrity. He's a great organizer, and he's a great fundraiser. What will be interesting to see is what Michael Whatley sounds like on the stump. He's been in front of a camera before, even on our own station, WRAL, because we often called him and said, hey, Chairman Whatley, we have this piece of news that we'd like the Republican Party to respond to. And sure enough, he would jump on and do interviews with us and things like that. But it'll be interesting to see how he handles a podium talking about himself, and how he can respond to criticism, because so far the criticism in his career has been of the organizations that he represents, either the state party or the RNC. We'll wait and see how Whatley handles that on his feet. People would give Cooper an edge. Right now, the analysts I speak to give Cooper an edge just because he's proven he can win, whereas Whatley hasn't. But Whatley's entry into this race probably means that we'll also see more of Trump here, right? With someone so new to the campaign trail, people expect Trump to come down and help more now than maybe he would have if it was a bigger name like Tillis on the ticket. So, I made a joke earlier today to some of our colleagues that Whatley is being chosen or will likely get Trump's endorsement because he's a Trump ally. And on the campaign trail, he will likely say, I support the Trump agenda. Now, what's Roy Cooper going to say about that? He's going to say he supports the Trump agenda. They're both going to say the same thing.
Right.
But one is going to use it in a derogatory way, and the other is going to run on it. And so that's what we're going to hear on the campaign trail. We're going to hear, a seasoned veteran Democrat go up against a new politician, but one who knows how campaigns work. And it's going to be about Donald Trump and his big, beautiful bill's effect on health care and taxes and things like that right now. That's a long way of saying that it'll be a very interesting, very expensive race. Right now, I think most people would give a slight edge to Cooper because of his record.
All right. Well, a long way to go until November 2026, so we'll see where things develop between now and then. Thank you so much, Paul. And thank you for listening to the WRAL Daily Download and for making us part of your morning routine. Another great way to get WRAL news is the Morning Briefing newsletter. That's a daily email with Triangle news, events, and headlines to help you get ready for the day. Sign up at WRAL.com/newsletter.